Hello, Year 7. Welcome back to another week. Today, we're going to continue our number theory topic by looking at order of operations again. Now, we looked at this earlier this year, and we talked about how there were or what we talked about at the start of the year was that there were three kind of levels of order of operations. The first one was brackets. So you would make sure that you worked out anything that was in brackets first before you did any of the other operations that you could do. The next one was division or multiplication, okay? And you would go left to right in case there was multiple instances of that. So you would solve anything in brackets first, and then you would do the division and multiplication, okay, going from left to right. And then after you've done that, you would do any addition or subtraction going from left to right. Okay, so that's what we did at the start of the year. Now we're adding an extra step, an extra thing here, based on concepts that we've just learned. So we learned about how we do powers, okay, so squares, cubes, etc. And we call that indices. We also just learned about square roots and cubed roots, and these also qualify as indices. So our new step here, we're going to write in indices, powers, and square roots. Okay, so we now have a little acronym that we can use to remember the order that we do our operations. So we call that acronym BIDMAS. It stands for brackets first, so that stays as the first thing, anything that's in brackets. And then we do any powers or square roots before we do any other things. So brackets, then powers and square roots. Then we do any division or multiplication. You can see here I've joined them together. So division and multiplication are on the same level. That is, they don't take priority over one another. It just depends which one is the most left. So you start on the left. And if there's, say, 3 times 2 divided by 4, you did the 3 times 2 first because it's on the left, and then the division. Okay, and then the last sort of stage is addition and subtraction. Again, it doesn't matter which order you do addition or subtraction. We usually start left to right. But that's the order that we need to do our operations. So today, we're just going to do a few examples of these. Okay, the main thing is that we show our working correctly. We only need to worry about order of operations when we've got multiple operations to do. And if we're doing multiple things, okay, we don't want to do it all in our head. We want to do one thing at a time. It's also important when we're communicating our thinking to other people that you can show clearly what you've done and the steps and the order that you did them. Okay, the more complicated we get, the more important that is, because if you say, I think I've got the answer, if you set out your working really clearly, then you can know for sure that you have the answer. And that's one really powerful thing about maths, is that if we're clear and we're precise, then we can know something for sure. There's not a lot of things that you learn at school that are like that. So it's worth taking the time, setting out your working clearly so that you can know for sure, so that you don't make mistakes. So it actually becomes easier. The more fluent you get at writing, the quicker you'll be able to do the questions. So can I encourage you, when you submit your work today, make sure you've shown each step of working. Don't just show me your answers. You need to show the steps that you took to get them. Okay, let's, on that note, do a few of these examples ourselves. So we've got to complete using the correct order of operations. So here, for part A, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's in the brackets. So 14 plus 11, that's the first thing I've got to do because it's in brackets, and it becomes 25. And we just leave anything else there. So this is the way that we set our working. We talked about this a lot. Do one thing and everything else stays the same. Write it out as it is, just solving one thing at a time. I now can do this division because it's the only operation left, and that becomes 5. Okay, so I showed what I did in the brackets. 14 plus 11 becomes 25, divided by 5. So I leave that there. and then I did the division. Okay, that's how we're going to set our working out. Equal signs down the page underneath each other. Let's do part B. So we've got 18 times and then brackets 4 minus 2. So again, I need to do the brackets first. So I'm going to leave the 18 times as it is, and then I solve. What's 4 minus 2? That's going to be 2. Now I can do 18 times 2, which will give me 36. So you see again how I've shown my working. I leave the 18 times for later because I need to do the brackets first. Okay, now this time I have 2 sets of brackets. Now when we have 2 sets of brackets that are separate from each other, so I don't have a bracket within a bracket, I've got 2 separate sets of brackets, then we can actually do both of them at the same time. So I can solve what's in one pair of brackets, leave the division sign, and solve what's in the other pair of brackets in the same line, and that's okay. Okay, it's a good thing to do. We don't always have to show everything, as long as we've shown clearly what we've done and the order that we've done it. But because we can do brackets at the same time, then we can show that in one line of working. So 25 minus 7 is 18. Yes, I did get that right, 18 divided by, I leave the divided by sign there, and then 2 plus 4 is 6. So that's my first line, 18 divided by 6. I've just simplified each pair of brackets, and I can do that at the same time. The next line, I can then simplify 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay, so each of these I showed 2 lines of working showing what I did and the order that I did it. That's what you need to do too when you do similar examples. Okay, simplify the following. 15 minus 7 divided by 2 minus 4. Now remember, when we have a big fraction like this, okay, then we can see there are invisible brackets on the top and bottom. So we can write them in, or you don't have to, but we just need to understand that we need to simplify what's on the top first, then simplify what's on the bottom before we can do the division, because there are hidden brackets when we use that fraction form. So let's do part A. You can solve what's on the top first. So 15 minus 7 is going to be 8 divided by 2 times 4 is 8. And then 8 divided by 8 is 1. So you need to show both those steps. Simplify the top, simplify the bottom, and then simplify to get your answer. Okay, B here, we've got a square root. This is what we're talking about. So when we have a square root sign as well, if everything is underneath that square root sign, there's also a hidden bracket there. Okay, so you need to simplify everything under the square root sign before you then do the square root. So just beware when it comes to the order, this brackets one here is important. It applies to fractions and square root signs too. In that you need to see that there are hidden brackets underneath the square root sign and on the top and bottom of fractions. So firstly, I'm going to say equals. I'm going to leave that square root sign there. I'm going to simplify what's underneath it. 7 plus 9 is 16. And then it's times 3. And that times 3 is outside of the square root. So we need to make sure that we draw it as such. And then we can simplify. The first thing we do is not the multipliers, but is the square root, because that's in the indices line here. So we square root 16. What number times itself equals 16? Okay, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. So the square root of 16 is 4, and then we times that. Okay, and then we need to keep that times 3 there. And then we can simplify that. 4 times 3 becomes 12, and that is our final answer. Okay, so again, simplify what's under the square root square root sign, because there's hidden brackets. Then do the square root, then do the multiplication. Okay, last question. we've got to scan the question first. Have a look at what's in the whole question before you do anything. So there's 20 divided by 2 squared plus 3. So I've got a divided by, I've got a squared, that's a power or an indice, and then I've got a plus. So I know the first thing I've got to do based on my order is the indice first, and then the it's a division, and then the plus. So part C, we write 20 divided by, and then we simplify 2 squared. 2 times 2, or 2 by itself, is 4. 2 times itself, sorry. And then leave the plus 3 there. So that's our first line. Leave the 20 divided by, leave the plus 3, and then you simplify 2 squared. Okay, next line, 20 divided by 4. Okay, we do our divided before we do the plus, becomes 5, and leave the plus 3 there. And then at the last step, 5 plus 3 is 8, and we finish. So you can see there, for these two questions, we have to do 3 lines of working because there were 3 steps involved. Okay, good luck with today's questions. Now, in your textbook questions, make sure you're showing you're working as I've done it, equal signs underneath each other, one step at a time. Okay, when you upload to OneNote, make sure you've got it there. I don't want to just see answers. Now, if you're having issues with OneNote, make sure you look at those help videos that I put in the lesson plan too. Okay, the first video shows you how to use the app on your phone, which is the easiest way. If that's not working, watch the second video, and I'll go through 3 other ways that you can do it. So it should work for everyone. One of those multiple ways should work for you. So make sure if you're having issues, watch those videos, and they should help you out. Okay. With the mathematics, you might want to work it out pen and paper and then input your answers. Okay, so do it one step at a time when you're working and put your answer into mathematics. Okay, if you have any issues, make sure you contact me on Microsoft Teams in the group chats, and I'll see you in the next video.